When a reclusive black man changed his internet access code, his racist Karen neighbor called the police. However, the responding officers were about to uncover a much more concerning situation. Arthur Finch was a man who preferred solitude. He telecommuted for his job, maintained a tidy garden, and only interacted with those living nearby when absolutely necessary. For the most part, people respected his privacy, which suited him perfectly. That was until a simple act drew unwanted scrutiny. It all began on a Wednesday morning in Willow Creek, Oregon. Arthur had just finished a productive morning of work and decided to take a moment to check his online connection speed. Recently, his wireless internet had been unreliable, slower than usual, causing interruptions during video conferences and delays when he listened to music. Initially, he dismissed it as an issue with his service provider, but something felt off, prompting him to investigate further. Accessing his router settings on his mobile device, he discovered an unfamiliar device connected to his network. The name wasn't just random characters. It appeared someone had deliberately labeled it Willow Creek_net02. This was strange. Arthur lived alone and only had his phone, tablet, and smart television connected to his Wi-Fi. He also wasn't one to share his password, so who was using his internet connection? Irritated, he decided to disconnect all unknown devices and create a new password. He went outside to get a better signal, leaning against his house while entering the new credentials, and that's when Beatrice Olson saw him from her dining room window. She noticed Arthur standing in his driveway, looking at his phone, his fingers moving swiftly across the screen. To her, it seemed suspicious. She had always been wary of him, not for any specific reason, but because he never seemed interested in engaging with the community. He didn't attend neighborhood gatherings, he rarely spoke to anyone, and now he was outside fiddling with his phone. Her mind immediately went to the worst possible scenario. He was engaging in illegal online activity. She didn't know what kind or why, but she had a strong feeling. Something was amiss. Before she could reconsider, she picked up her phone and contacted emergency services. Yes, I'd like to report a suspicious activity. My neighbor is outside doing something with his phone. I'm not sure what it is, but it looks very strange. Could you please send someone to investigate? The operator asked for more details, but Beatrice didn't have any concrete information. She simply kept repeating, "He's up to no good, I just know it." Law enforcement officers were dispatched, and Arthur, completely unaware, was about to have his quiet morning disrupted by a full-scale investigation. But neither of them realized that the real danger was completely unrelated to Arthur. Arthur had just finished updating his Wi-Fi password when he heard the sound of emergency vehicle sirens. At first, he didn't pay much attention, assuming they were going somewhere else. But then he saw a police vehicle slow down and stop directly in front of his residence. Two officers got out. One was a tall, muscular man with defined facial features, Investigator Samuel Reed. His colleague, Officer Clara Bell, was of a smaller stature but possessed a subtle yet firm presence. Arthur sighed softly. Here it comes. He remained where he was as the officers approached. Reed's hand hovered near his side, not touching his firearm, but close enough to convey a message. "Sir," Reed called out, his voice even, "we received a report of suspicious activity. Could you explain what you're doing?" Arthur frowned, looking from one officer to the other. Suspicious activity? I was standing on my own property. I'm changing my internet password. His tone held a hint of bewilderment, but he kept his voice steady. He knew these situations could escalate quickly. Reed exchanged a brief glance with Bell before looking back at Arthur. "Do you reside here?" Arthur almost chuckled. What kind of question was that? His vehicle was in the driveway. His name was on the mailbox. "Yes," he said, folding his arms. "I've lived here for 3 years." Before Reed could speak, a voice interrupted. "He's not telling the truth." Arthur turned, and there she was, Beatrice Olson, standing on her porch, arms crossed, observing everything as if she were the neighborhood watch. "He's always outside doing something," she continued, "playing with his phone, looking around as if he's observing people. Now he's been standing in the same spot for 10 minutes just typing away." Arthur was incredulous. Was she serious? "I was in my router settings," he said plainly, Because someone I don't know has been using my internet. Beatrice scoffed. Oh, really? And I'm supposed to believe that? Reed turned to her. Ma'am, do you have any evidence that Mr. Finch has committed any illegal act? Beatrice hesitated because, naturally, she didn't. She just had a feeling of unease. I'm not sure, she admitted. I just think you should investigate. Reed sighed, his patience wearing thin. He turned back to Arthur. Sir, would you mind if we take a quick look at your router settings just to clarify this? Arthur tightened his jaw. He shouldn't have to prove anything, but he also knew how these situations could quickly get out of hand. Fine, he muttered, unlocking his phone and bringing up the settings. Here, take a look. Reed leaned in, his eyes scanning the list of connected devices, and that's when his expression changed because there it was, Willow Creek under Net 02. Who is the owner of this device? Reed asked. Arthur shook his head. Not me, officer. Officer Bell stepped forward, her eyebrows raised. So, someone has been using your internet without your permission? Arthur nodded. And I don't think they were just using it for browse. Look at the connection logs. It's been running constantly. Someone has been watching. Reed's demeanor changed. This was no longer just a minor neighborly dispute. Beatrice, still standing on her porch, suddenly looked uncomfortable. Wait, what do you mean by watching? Arthur turned to her, his eyes stern. I mean someone has been spying, and they might be watching all of us. But the real question was, who? Silence fell over the front yard. The weight of Arthur's words hung in the air. Beatrice, who had been so certain she was in the right, suddenly looked anxious. Spying. That was not what she had expected to hear. Reed straightened up. All right, he said, his voice more serious now. Let's go inside. I want to see exactly what we're dealing with. Arthur didn't object. He guided the officers into his residence, his frustration simmering beneath the surface. He had done nothing wrong, yet he was being treated as a suspect in his own home. Beatrice hesitated before following. She wasn't sure why, but an instinct told her she needed to hear this. Once inside, Arthur placed his phone on the dining table and projected the router settings onto his tablet screen. The device list appeared. There it was again, Willow Creek _Net 02, still connected, still active. Officer Bell leaned in, examining the details. Can you identify the type of device this is? Arthur clicked around, his fingers moving quickly. I can't say for sure, but he opened the activity logs and stopped abruptly. Reed noticed the change in his face. What is it? Arthur's throat felt dry. It's been accessing video feeds. The room fell silent. Beatrice blinked. I don't understand. What video feeds? Arthur's fingers hovered over the keyboard. Mine. He turned the tablet around. My home surveillance cameras. Someone has been logging in and watching my live streams. Bell's expression hardened. Are you saying someone has been spying on you through your own security system? Arthur exhaled sharply. That's precisely what I'm saying. But then his stomach churned because the more he scrolled, the more he realized it wasn't just his cameras. His system had identified multiple IP addresses. Some belonged to his network, but others were from different residences. Oh, this is serious, Arthur murmured. Reed leaned closer. What do you mean? Arthur tapped the screen. Whoever this is, they're not just watching me. They're watching other people in the neighborhood. Beatrice took a step back, shaking her head. No, that can't be right. Arthur turned to her. Are you sure about that? He clicked another log. A new feed opened. A dimly lit hallway appeared, followed by a living room, then a bedroom. Beatrice gasped. Wait, that's... Arthur didn't even need to ask. He recognized it instantly. It was her house. She stumbled backward, covering her mouth with her hand. Reed's voice was sharp. How in the world is this happening? Arthur gritted his teeth. If I had to guess, someone in the neighborhood set up a deceptive network, a Wi-Fi signal that appears to be a normal connection. People unknowingly connect to it, and once they do, their devices are compromised. Belle's face grew serious. You mean a man-in-the-middle attack? Arthur nodded. Exactly. Beatrice's voice trembled. So you're saying someone has been… what? Watching me. My family. Arthur's eyes remained fixed on hers. That's exactly what I'm saying. She sank into a chair, her hands shaking. Oh my goodness. Reed's jaw tightened. All right, we need to identify who is behind this, and quickly. But what none of them knew was that the person responsible was much closer than they imagined. Investigator Reed wasted no time. He took out his communication device and requested cybercrime support. This is more significant than we initially thought, he muttered to Officer Bell. If someone is operating a surveillance network, they're not just violating privacy, they're committing a serious crime. Bell nodded, her expression grave. And if we don't stop them now, who knows how far they've already gone? Arthur, still seated at his tablet, was already investigating further. He wasn't a hacking expert, but he knew enough about network security to trace where the data was being transmitted. He opened the IP logs and froze. Wait, this can't be right. Reed looked up. What? Arthur turned the tablet screen so they could see. The data isn't being sent to some random server, it's being sent to an address right here in the neighborhood. Beatrice's eyes widened. You mean someone close by is behind this? Arthur nodded. It's coming from a house just a few doors down. Reed's expression darkened. Can you pinpoint exactly which one? Arthur worked fast, cross-referencing connection timestamps with signal strength. Within minutes, he had a match. His stomach dropped. He recognized the address. Beatrice did too. No, she whispered, shaking her head. That's… Arthur cut her off, voice cold. That's Kevin's house. Kevin Olson, Beatrice's own nephew, a 22-year-old college student who had moved in with her a few months ago. He was quiet, always on his computer, barely socialized. Now, suddenly, things were making a whole lot of sense. Beatrice's face went pale. No, that doesn't make any sense. Kevin isn't. He wouldn't. Bell stepped in. We need to talk to him now. Beatrice hesitated. She didn't want to believe it, but deep down, something in her gut told her it was true. I'll take you to him, she murmured. Arthur stood. I'm coming too. Reed gave him a sharp look. No, you stay here. Let us handle this. Arthur clenched his jaw. He hated sitting back when he was the one who uncovered everything, but he also knew pushing back wouldn't help. Fine, he muttered, but you'd better get the truth out of him. But the truth, it was even worse than they imagined. Beatrice's hands shook as she led Reed and Bell down the street to her house. Every step felt heavier than the last. Kevin, the kid she had taken in, the one she helped through school, it couldn't be him. And yet, deep down, a voice in her head whispered, "What if it is?" She opened the front door, calling out, "Kevin, can you come downstairs for a minute?" No answer. Reed exchanged a look with Bell before stepping inside. "We're going up." Beatrice didn't argue. She just wrapped her arms around herself, her breath unsteady. They climbed the stairs, reaching Kevin's bedroom door. It was shut. No sounds inside. Reed knocked hard. "Kevin, this is the police. We need to talk." Still nothing. Then the sound of movement, a chair scraping, footsteps. Bell's hand hovered over her gun. "Open the door now." Slowly, the knob turned. The door creaked open, revealing Kevin Olson. He looked startled, nervous, eyes darting between Reed, Bell, and his aunt. His hands fidgeted at his sides. "What's going on?" he asked, voice tight. Reed studied him. "We have reason to believe you've been accessing private security cameras in the neighborhood. You want to explain that?" Kevin's face barely flinched, but his fingers curled slightly, like he was gripping something invisible. "What? That's crazy," he scoffed. "I don't know what you're talking about." Bell wasn't buying it. "Mind if we check your laptop?" His jaw tightened. "You don't have a warrant." Reed stepped closer. "Kevin, we can get one, But right now we're giving you a chance to tell us the truth before this gets worse. A long, tense beat. Then Kevin exhaled. Look, he ran a hand through his hair. I wasn't doing anything illegal, okay? I just... Reed cut him off. Then why is your IP address linked to a network breach involving multiple homes? Kevin froze. Beatrice's voice broke. Kevin, please tell me you're not involved in this. His eyes darted to her, and for the first time, his mask cracked. I didn't mean for it to get this far, he muttered. It started as a joke. I wanted to see if I could get into someone's Wi-Fi just to mess with them. Reed's voice was sharp. So you admit you hacked into the network? Kevin hesitated. Then he nodded. Beatrice's breath caught in her throat. Kevin kept going, voice faster now. It was just supposed to be a prank, but then I saw the security cameras, and I got curious. Belle's eyes narrowed. Curious or obsessed? Kevin didn't answer. Reed's patience ran out. How many people have you watched? Silence. Then his voice dropped. I don't know. Beatrice staggered back. Oh my God. Kevin looked at her. For the first time, real regret crossed his face. I swear I wasn't hurting anyone, he said. I just... Reed didn't let him finish. Kevin Olson, you're under arrest for unauthorized access of a computer network and unlawful surveillance. Kevin went pale. Wait, no, Belle was already pulling out her cuffs. Beatrice turned away, covering her face as tears welled in her eyes. Arthur had been right all along, and the worst part, she had called the authorities on him when the real danger had been inside her house the whole time. But this wasn't over yet. Kevin didn't resist. He stood there, wrists bound in cuffs, staring at the floor as Reed read him his rights. It was over. Beatrice's breath was shaky. She couldn't even look at him. This was her nephew, the boy she had taken in, fed, supported, and he had been violating the privacy of their entire neighborhood. Reed guided Kevin toward the door, but before stepping out, he turned to Arthur, who had been watching from the sidewalk. You were right, Reed admitted. If you hadn't caught this, we might have never known. Arthur didn't say anything at first. He just let out a slow breath, looking between Kevin and Beatrice. Then finally he spoke. You know what's crazy? His voice was calm, but the weight behind it was unmistakable. I was out here minding my business, changing my own internet password, and yet somehow I was the one who got the authorities called on me. Beatrice flinched. She had no defense because there was none. I was wrong, she murmured. I made an assumption, and it was completely unfair. Arthur let that sit in the air for a moment, then shaking his head, he turned toward his house. I don't need an apology, he said over his shoulder. Just do better. And with that, he went inside. Reed and Belle exchanged a look before leading Kevin toward the patrol car. Beatrice stayed behind, standing alone in the middle of the street. The truth had been right in front of her all along, but she had been too busy looking at the wrong person, and that mistake, it would haunt her for a long time. Assumptions have consequences. Jumping to conclusions based on bias or paranoia can ruin innocent people's lives while the real danger goes unchecked. Instead of making judgments without evidence, take a step back, observe, listen. The truth might not be what you expect. If you found this story eye-opening, share it. You never know who needs to hear this lesson today. Have you ever experienced a moment where someone unfairly judged you based on appearance? Share your experience in the comments. If you enjoyed this and want more content on inspiring Black stories channel like this, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Thanks for watching, and remember, real courage is not fearing the consequences, but prioritizing justice over comfort.